Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome to this special edition of the All Portable Discussion Zone. It's usually a bi-weekly live stream all about amateur radio portable ops. This time it's just kind of off schedule a little bit, and we have a bunch of special guests with us. My name is Charlie. November Juliet 7 Victor is my call. And with me this evening right now, we have one of our co-hosts, Dan, KC7MSU. Brian will be joining us a little later, we hope. He's a pilot and out and about doing things and running back to his hotel, it sounds like. I'm also pleased to introduce our guests tonight. We have with us Scott, KW4JM.
Yes, Scott here, live in Asheville, North Carolina. Entered hamism late in life about 6 or 7 years ago, and under the influence of Dean K2JB, I've gotten into SOTA and CW, and I love it. That's my niche. So that's my story.
Great. Thanks, Scott. Go ahead, Steve, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Steve. I'm the GOAT guy, Whiskey Golf Zero Alpha Tango. And I've been doing SOTA for about 20 years, although it hadn't come to the U.S. for about 10 years ago. So in other words, I was off playing in the mountains with my goats and QRP radios and loving it, and then finally decided, hey, it's time to do it for real when they shipped it over here to North America. So
cool. Thanks, Steve. Next we have Martha. Go ahead, Martha.
W0ERI, Leavenworth, Kansas. Been a ham for what, 50 years now, something like that, at any rate. And SOTA since about 2013. So I just have fun with it.
Great. Thanks, Martha. And also with us, we have Adam, K6ARK.
How's it going, Charlie and the rest of the crew? Thanks to everybody for joining us tonight. I have been active in SOTA for, probably about 5 years now, and I cut my teeth watching Steve's videos, so it's fun to have him here.
Awesome. And then we have Dean, K2JB.
Good evening. I've been ham for about 41 years. I've been playing with radio since I was 11, and been doing SOTA now for 8 years, but got started watching Steve's videos with Rooster and Peanut and thought that is just so much fun. And then I found out about SOTA, and that's just the perfect match of everything good about ham radio, and I love it.
it really is.
Cool. And then we have also with us, who's left? We got Keith. Sorry, Keith, you're down on the bottom there.
Hi, this is Keith, KR7RK. I've been a ham for about 28 years, I think, and in SOTA for about 5 years. I love the outdoors and I love amateur radio, and fantastic way to combine my two loves.
Cool. And then, of course, you know, me and Dan, we're the hosts here, and Brian will be along shortly. Of course, we also have our regular characters in the chat room. I'm looking at the chat right now. Sorry, I haven't had time to respond to anybody, but we got a live stream going on here. So, but once we get going with the topics of the night, I'll try to field some questions and respond. And Dan should help me out too, right, Dan?
Yep.
Right. Good. So, of course, if you have a question, that's what we're here for tonight. We've got all this expertise out here. So, if you have a question about any of the topics we're discussing, or any other question, we'll answer the questions that are off topic a little later in the presentation. But we'll go through, and we have a nice agenda to kind of cover some things that are important. So, thanks for being here, everybody. So first, let's go ahead and dive right into the agenda. The first topic of the agenda is the SOTA community. And we have Scott, KW4JM, who's going to talk just a little bit about that. And I thought it was a great topic, Scott, because I was just out in Georgia, and I had I benefited from that great community out there in North Georgia and the Carolinas, that all those outlying areas. So go ahead and take it away.
Oh, good. Okay, Scott, KW4JM here. We do have good, pleasant community in our SOTA community, Southeast United States, W4 Association. And I've thought of 3 things that I think help promote this good community. And I'll call them fellowship, mentoring, and support. and I wanted to say just a thing or two about each one. One of the biggest builders of fellowship that we have in W4 is a twice-a-year campout that our association president, Pat, KI4SVM, puts together. Our next camp out is about 6 weeks from now, late April, in Roanoke, Virginia, in the middle of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And activators and chasers will come from all over W4 and beyond. And we spend 2, 3, 4 or more days together. We meet each other, and maybe we've never seen each other face to face before. We pair up and group up for hikes. We usually have at least one great feast during that time. And since we are all over the mountains of that area around the camp, we get lots of S2Ss. And so it's just a wonderful time. And I think Pat's also putting together one for the fall in North Georgia. So that'll be our fall camp out. So that's an example of the fellowship building activity that is so pleasant here. The next thing I'll mention is mentoring. I would guess that most activators, maybe even most chasers, got into this because they were invited by an experienced activator or chaser. Like I said, Dean took me under his wing about 5 years ago and took me on my first hikes and showed me how to do it. And since then, Dean and Pat have reintroduced me to backpacking, and we've been all over the Appalachian Trail on 2 and 3 day hikes. And so that's what I mean by mentoring. And then you get to pay it forward. I've had the pleasure of introducing 3 guys to their early hikes and seen them go on to become mountain goats. So that's what I mean by mentoring. And for example, let me give this example. I know a ham just a couple of weeks ago that heard an activator on another summit who you could hear loud and clear, but he couldn't hear his chasers. He was a new activator. So this experienced activator that I'm referring to went home, called him up, and invited him on a hike. And he's going to take him under his wing, and I bet he'll become an experienced activator. So that's how you can pay it forward. And so finally, support. There's a lot of chatter among us, emails, texts, phone calls, where we work out, where we compare notes and work together, even work out, for example, legal issues. If there's a question about whether it's legal to park in a certain place or go up a certain way on a mountain, we freely talk that out and usually work it out to everybody's satisfaction. And another support activity is good posts. You can usually find a lot of good information on any summit that you're researching on the SOTA website. I've activated in other associations before. I remember one association where there just wasn't much information up there, and I really noticed the difference. There was one mountain I was researching that there was one post and it said, "Nice view from top." And that's all the information I had. So I had to go from scratch on that one. And another example of support is our association president, Pat, recently put together a Zoom series on using CalTopo. And that was a great, fun thing to do and a lot of practical help. So that's it. We do enjoy each other in W4 and love getting together and working together and activating and chasing each other. Perhaps you've got the same quality of community in your association too, but if there's any of those things that you can use to kick it up a notch, please feel free.
Yeah, what about it, guys? Anything to add there?
I would just note that from my experience, it's very easy to take other SOTA activators out, even if it's for their first time or to go out and do group things, because people that do summits on the air stuff tend to be very self-sufficient and they're very low maintenance when it comes to outdoor stuff. So don't be afraid and don't hesitate to offer to bring someone along or to ask if you can join someone if you're a newer operator.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and especially if you're new to it, don't even worry about hauling up radio equipment or purchasing radio equipment ahead of time. There's plenty of SOTA activators that would be more than happy to take you up a mountain and show you what they use and get you on the radio for your first couple times. You can see different operating styles and different types of equipment that are in use by different operators. So that's really valuable to get out with somebody who's been doing it for a while.
I agree. Okay, before we move on to Steve's going to take a little bit more time with the SOTA etiquette stuff. Let me just interject here a couple questions that were in chat, and we'll just let somebody answer them. First one is, if it's private property, do I need to get permission? Anybody? We all know the answer, right?
Yeah.
Always.
It depends,
Always.
really.
Okay, always for most, but somebody said depends. I think Adam said depends. Go ahead.
Yeah, in many states, and I think in most of the U.S., if private property has no fences or signs and it is normally accessed by the public, public access is typically allowed. If there are any barriers to access, fences, signs, any of that stuff, then you absolutely need permission.
I think Adam said that well.
Good. Yeah, I always forget that caveat, Adam. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's also sometimes in national forests you'll run across range fences. In other words, cattle ranchers who put up a fence primarily to keep their cattle. But it's a good idea to look ahead of time your route, and if it indeed on the map it crosses private property, then you either need permission or don't go there.
Yep.
Or find a different access.
Yep, I think that pretty much says it all. Okay, the next question is it worth SOTA with a technician license?
Well, I think it is. There are a lot of mountains near communities, at least in our area, where you can do a lot of activating with 2 meters.
Yep, I agree. I know of several people who have are just 2 meter only guys. In fact, we had what was it? Trying to think of the couple now that all they did was activate 2 meters. Why can't I remember their name?
Bob and Joyce.
Yes, Bob and Joyce.
K0NR and K0JJW.
Yep, they're both goats. Only operated in 2 meters, and they did 2 meters sideband, 2 meter CW, meter FM, but only 2 meters. So yeah, it's quite feasible, isn't it?
And don't forget, there's a lot of people who do SOTA or satellite operations from summits as well.
Yeah, and additionally,
I'd like to add, don't forget, 10 meters is open to all technicians. So there's no reason you can't get on 10 meters and make some phone contacts. And then there are CW bands for technicians in in 40 meters, for example, and 40 meters is one of the most active SOTA bands. And so just because you're a technician, don't think you're not able to get on HF at all.
Yeah, and Keith, how many summits have you gotten at least 4 contacts on 10 meters alone on?
I haven't counted the number of summits, but
points wise,
I've done far more than enough to get a mountain goat on 10 meters only. So I would guess my average is about 6 points per summit. So probably I'm going to say 150 or 200 summits with at least 4 contacts on 10 meters only. So it's possible. It takes a little bit of perseverance and patience, but the answer is yes. Technicians should be on SOTA for sure. Please.
10's open a lot more than people think it is, and when you put out a SOTA spot, you got a decent chance of making some contacts.
I've worked Martha on 10 meters from Arizona to Kansas.
Yeah.
Number of times.
Number of times, yeah. All right, Steve, let's go with your topic. You can introduce it yourself and then go with it. We'll give him a second to bring up his, he has a little slide deck to show us so that he can kind of keep track of everything. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so I got this newsletter from K7ATN, ETN, if I can pronounce his name correctly, puts out a newsletter for the Northwest SOTA crew, and in there was this explanation of the SOTA etiquette, and I thought, wow, what is that? Somebody took time to put it down on paper, and it's all the stuff we do normally or naturally, but some of it's not obvious. And so I kind of paraphrased a lot of his points, and we're gonna go through and sort of itemize those and try and talk through them, efficiently here. So an activator success, if I can talk, is greatly enhanced by the enthusiasm and determination of the SOTA chasers. They're basically all competing with each other, trying to accumulate as many points as possible. And I'm often amazed at, after hiking for several hours to get to a summit and put up an antenna and get my radio gear out and see if I got cell coverage, and finally I spot myself, and boom, here's this pile of eager chasers to work me. This little tiny QRP signal with a piece of wire in a tree. Well, number one, you want to be heard. And to be heard, you've got to have a good signal. There's a lot of ways to have a good signal. One is to lug a big battery up the mountain, and a radio that'll put out 50 to 100 watts. But think weight. You've got to carry that with you. And there's some other ways to have a good signal, and that is to use a good antenna, or the best one that you can put together. For example, a dipole is really underrated. It's a great antenna, particularly when it's on a mountaintop. End-fed half wave is also a good antenna versus mag loops or short loaded verticals. I've even known some folks to carry up a couple of antennas, like phased verticals or bobtail curtain, and it's a great opportunity to experiment with antennas. The other issue is have good signal quality. And a tip on this is do this at home, and vet out your audio if you're going to run sideband. For example, on CW, adjust your key paddle and spacing and tension at home, and lock it down. And set up your memories in your keyer with CQ SOTA, and the same for voice. On sideband, for example, fine-tune your mic gain and compression, maybe with a friend across town, and have them record you and see what settings are best for you. If you happen to be using a KX2, there are some settings. There's a sheet floating around somewhere on the web. Anyway, maybe after this, if you want to email me, I'll email you this settings sheet. But I find that setting my KX2 up for contest or DX, and by the way, as a chaser, you are the DX, and you want to be heard. But you can go in the menu and again fine tune your audio so that it's good communication quality. So choosing a frequency, choose it wisely. Know the band plans. For example, if I was going to go on 20 meters sideband, and decided to go just above, see if you can see my cursor here.
Yeah.
If you were going to be on 20 meter sideband, for example, I would want to stay above 14.225, just because there's more fish in the pond whereas I dropped down to 14,200, I've now eliminated all the general class chasers just by the fact that they can't go down there. So look before you leap and know what the band plan is, and also be aware there's a ton of nets on 20 meters, and typically they come up at the top of the hour. Some of them are a few at the half hour, but most are at the top of the hour. So if you just happen to be going on the air at the top of the hour, beware. You might have to compete with Maritime Mobile Net, or but choose your frequency wisely. Just looking here, it looks like the nets kind of run out at 14,340, but that's not true. There are some nets that actually appear above 340, and I know from experience. So moving on, picking your frequency, the tip here is go where most SOTA ops hang out, and this is kind of gained by experience, but for example, on 40 meters, the QRP watering hole is 7.030. So it's probably not best practice to come up on that frequency and drown out all the other QRPers. Your signal is probably a little bit bigger than theirs is, with the fact that you're sitting on a mountaintop. So 7032, 33, 34, 35. And if it's a contest weekend and the band's really busy, the old novice band, 7.1 100 on up to, I think it's 120, but somewhere in there you could probably find a clear frequency.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Steve, that is great advice right there. I've used those novice bands quite a bit, especially during contests.
Yeah, it's disconcerting when all of a sudden you realize it's CQ Worldwide CW weekend, and 40 meters is just crawling with signals.
Yep.
Same with 20. 30 meters, there's another interesting phenomenon. There's a DX window, like 160 meters, that goes from the bottom of the band, 10.100 to up to 110. And you can use this portion, but beware that if some DX station starts calling CQ and he's spotted, most of North America is going to show up, if he's rare, in that portion of the band, and then they'll be spread out just because the DX station is probably going to operate split, and it could ruin your day on 30 meters if that happens to you. The other frequency to probably stay away from is the straight key Century Club, which is 10.115. So the frequencies I've found work best for me are 10.111, and you can operate in between these frequencies. You don't have to be dead on. As a matter of fact, sometimes being dead on some of these frequencies, the even frequency, or even kilohertz, if you will, you run the risk of another operator just dialing up that frequency because it's an even frequency as opposed to some odd frequency. So, for example, on 20 meters, again, the QRP watering hole is 14.060. And just down from that, actually, 5.8 is also the Century, straight key Century Club. But so staying on 14.061 on up is a good choice. And again, contest weekend, you might find something on up higher in the band, for example, 14.092 or 93. And as you venture up into these higher parts of the band, beware that there's digital and there's other modes operating up there as well. And as always, don't forget to ask if the frequency's in use. QRL, and again, contest weekend, is anybody using this one? And signing your call. And listening. So make noise. You can't catch fish if your hook isn't in the water. Don't spot yourself and wait around for chasers. They're not going to call you. They're not going to call you in the blind. You've got to make noise. One other point I wanted to make there is don't spot yourself and let a long pause occur. In other words, don't spot yourself and jump up and go visit the woods and come back unless it's really important. And don't create long pauses. If no one answers you, keep calling CQ. And if that's not convenient, it's a good time to pull your memory up, and if you loaded it, and push buttons and let your radio just go to town. When it becomes a pileup, be efficient and predictable. Avoid rag chewing where the first chaser that answers you or calls you. And there's chasers that are waiting. You can sense this by the pile. Obviously, when you've got a pile going, you want to keep calm. You want to create a sense of urgency, a friendly sense of urgency, and keep it going until the pile slows down. And that's the time if you want to chit chat and keep the frequency, keep holding the frequency with some chit chat. Great. Have a routine, be predictable, develop a sense of rhythm so chasers know when to throw their call in. Summits to summits obviously have priority, and so if a DX station calls you, our wonderful group of chasers all stand by and let you work the DX, which is just amazing, unlike some other areas of ham radio. Avoid giving the reference number repeatedly. It's not necessary, and it lengthens the exchange, and while other chasers are again waiting their turn. Whoops, that's my notification.
Fitting.
If we keep our SOTA chasers happy and well fed, we'll be happy too in turn. Activation may be your passion, but I highly recommend chasing to experience what it's like to dance in their boots. Just saying. So here's Brad sitting up on Mount Herman enjoying an activation, and Gary and Martha. I think, well, their other hobby is balloon crewing, and that's pretty much my pitch. And I think anybody that's interested in SOTA, the best way to get into it is find somebody in your area and ask to go along, or in other words, find a mentor.
Yeah. Okay. In the chat, so anybody have any questions? We'll see what that is. While you're unsharing your screen, Steve, we'll see if there's anything in the chat.
Yeah. How do I do that? Stop share.
There you go.
Bingo.
Cool. All right. Anything to add, guys? I mean, he covered a lot of material there, but was there anything that popped in your mind that you might want to add to this?
Not that I can think of. That's a solid set of tips and recommendations for success, and it covers a number of the common failures that I see newer operators doing.
Yep, I agree. Cool. All right, I don't see anything in the chat either, so I am going to let's go ahead and move on then to Martha. Martha, you're going to talk a little bit about chasing, right?
Okay. I'm going to start out with a comment that why we chase is not important to this particular conversation, but how we chase is. The first commandment, and I'm going to echo what Steve said, is to listen, and then listen more. You've got to listen to the activator. You've got to determine the pattern that that activator uses to make the contact. What's the last action that he takes at the end of a contact? Does he send his call? Does he send a K? Or does maybe she just say QRZ? But listen for that pattern. Also listen to the other chasers. Which ones can you hear and what is their signal strength, both to you and the activators? This tells you how they're hearing, who they're hearing, and what time, when for you to try. Is there QSB? You've got to learn to time the QSB, so you'll be sending your call and your info on the upside of it. That takes a little bit of work, but it can be done. And right now, some days there is a tremendous amount of QSB. I wrote at first, avoid pileups, but that's not the right word. I want to say to kind of watch out for the pileups. Be patient. You'll be able to figure out what part of the country is giving you best by the stations that the activator answers first. If it's not your area, then wait just a bit. When there's a little space, then give your call and he'll hear you. But try not to call on top of everybody else if you can help it. I mean, the activator's got to pick one call out of there. And sometimes that's a little bit difficult if 5 people are calling at one time. Send your call once or twice at the most and use the proper phonetics. Be consistent in the way you try to make a contact. Activators get used to your style of operating and to your tone of voice, and they can pick you out when hearing minimal portions of your signal as a result.
Absolutely.
Try not to call on top of others. Many times you'll not hear all of the other stations. So feel free to apologize to any activators that you've stepped on someone. And I've done that many a time. Ever so often, why I hear them, but or I hear someone, and then I hear the activator call someone that, and they gave them a really good signal report, so I know I stepped on top of them. And I also got a good signal report too. So you try not to. Oops, excuse me, got a cat. You try not to create havoc that way if possible. Pay attention to the frequencies that the activators use the most. For example, KX0R can be found on 7.033 megahertz. And that's where I will usually be able to work him. So there are times where he's on another frequency, I can't hear him at all. I'll just tune over to 7.033 and wait for him. And when he calls, well, then I'm right there, first one on. So it sure beats waiting for SOTA Watch to catch up. Due to HOAs, other regulations and causes, some chasers are now operating remote. There's a delay, sometimes a rather long one, which causes those stations to call on top of the activator and other chasers. Any delay over 200 milliseconds is too long. 100 milliseconds or below is best. Be aware of that delay and do your best to work around it. There are not too many of them, but there are a few out there. So any way we can help them out, I think is a wise thing to do. A good antenna is the best part of your equipment. Without a well-matched antenna, no radio is good enough. Power is not necessary. Power doesn't make you hear any better. What you as a chaser hear is all important. So don't worry about the power, use your ears, listen. Use filters if you have them, back off the audio gain. Wide signal just irritates other listeners and operators. Do not tune on the operating frequency. In other words, be polite and don't be a lid. What we as chasers have going for us is that most activators are going to stay around until they no longer get any answers to their CQs. So there is always time for the chaser to get in. And I think that's all I have.
Okay. Cool. Anything to add, guys, from what she said on chasing? I mean, I chase a little bit. I know Keith does. I think we all do, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But nobody does it as good as her because she's got a good antenna, I think.
Yeah, and a good pair of ears.
Very good carriers. Yep. All right. Well, if there's nothing to add on what Martha said, thank you, Martha. Gosh, great information, and it's interesting to hear kind of from your perspective. Adam's up next, and he's going to talk about how to work a pileup. There's a couple of questions too in here. Adam, can you address those two questions? Do you know what two there were, or do you want me to read them?
Yeah, I saw those, and I will. Let me make a quick note here. And the other one was calling for QRP.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to work a pileup, because if you do what was recommended by Steve and put your call sign out consistently, get a spot, odds are you're going to get a pileup. That's just what happens when you run from a mountaintop, and there are lots of chasers that have good ears and come looking for you. So I've seen a lot of newer operators kind of struggle with how to deal with a pileup. So I wanted to give a few tips on how to manage that for newer operators. And I think the key thing that you need to learn from the start, and the key thing that newer operators tend to do wrong, is try to copy more than one call sign. Just listen for one part of one call sign, find some letter or something that stands out, and get at least one letter or number from a specific voice, or if you're operating CW, from CW. And if you get anything else that goes with that one letter or number, go ahead and jot it down. Either put it in your cell phone logging software into the call sign field, or on a little scratch part of your notepad that you're logging on. Once you get that first part jotted down for one of those call signs, then you can consider writing down another part of another call sign to follow up with later. That can be helpful, but the key is to focus on one and only one, and ignore the rest initially. You'll get to them. Don't worry about it. So write it down, because it's not going to stick up here. I've tried to just keep it in my head, and it doesn't work. So once you get that, as soon as the calling stops, come back with that number. And either, if you're sending CW, say the 7 call, or sorry, sideband, you can just say the 7 call station, go ahead. Or with CW, 7 ? And sometimes there will be multiple in there, but it significantly thins down the quantity of callers, and you're often able to add to that, with additional letters before or after. And if another way you can pare it down a little bit further is, if you heard the last 2 letters or 1 letter of a call, you can say ending in SU, Sierra Uniform, and that can help pare down the list. So use those kinds of tools. Know that you don't need the full call sign. If you just get 1 letter or 1 part of the call and come back with that, it's going to significantly thin the herd and make it a lot easier to work your way down in. When all else fails, and it's just a solid tone of CW coming back at you, you can try sending either just a W, a K, an A, or an N, because that's what most of the call signs are going to start with. And that'll significantly thin the quantity that are coming back to you as well. As you make those contacts, as Steve said, work efficiently through them. Don't take a lot of time, because there's a pileup waiting. And if you were able in that first set of calls to jot down a second letter or second set of letters from another call, as you finish up your first contact, or the initial contact, you can come back with that and say, NJ7V73 and the station ending in Sierra Uniform, go ahead. And that'll trigger the next station to come in without the rest of the pileup. So it's just an efficient way to work through with less of that back and forth in the group. Now, there was a question in the chat about someone calling any QRP stations out there. I've not heard people typically ask for QRP, maybe for net controls or something to that effect. But if a station running the pileup wants a certain type of station to get through the pile, they are more than welcome to pare down the list by calling for DX only, summit to summit only, any QRP stations. And I would encourage you guys to do that from summits. If you're running a pile up and it's taking a little bit of time, you think it's going to keep going, it might be worth just calling out any DX in the pile or any summit to summit stations come now, to pare down that list and try to get those contacts that have a little bit of a higher priority to you. Remember, as the activator, as the subject of the pileup, you run that pileup, you own it, and you got to kind of keep control of it. And by operating consistently and with purpose, it makes it easier to do that. If you do have any of those stations that are stepping on others or not being responsible with how they're calling, you can directly ask them to wait. You can kind of call those out nicely on the air. There's a pro sign AS strung together as a single character that you can use as a sign to wait for someone calling on CW, or you can just ask a call sign to please wait if they're stepping on others. So hopefully that answers some of the questions and gives some of the newer operators some good tips for working a pileup. Anyone else in the group have any tips that you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, I have one. I'm sure other people do as well. Let me just hop in here real quick. My wife, as you know, just started the SOTA thing, and I would say the thing that I learned from her is that for new operators, it's hard, even if it isn't a pileup, to pick out a call sign at first. Mm-hmm. And so the advice I gave her was, don't concentrate on the first half, concentrate on the second half, because the first half you can kind of guess. Just listen to those last 2 or 3 letters in a call sign. And so that's kind of what you were saying anyway, but that was something I found interesting. And then I forgot my other point, so let's see what else the other guys have to say.
Yeah, just picking up on what you said, Charlie. A new activator, I tell them or encourage them to make sure you understood or got the chaser's call, because the chaser wants their call correctly in your logbook, and don't feel embarrassed if you have to ask for repeats. Again, say your call phonetically again. It's okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And a quick tip for chasers too, especially, and this applies to CW and not necessarily sideband, but one thing I've found that can help make a station stand out in a pileup is if you tune slightly off the frequency that the activator is calling on, and it changes the pitch of the tone that they're receiving, and it makes your signal stand out a little bit from the other ones. So it's worth considering, just a few hertz off of the calling frequency. A few kilohertz, they're not going to hear you at all. But a few hertz off can change that tone a little bit and actually make your signal stand out pretty good.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, and playing off of that, if you're going to do that or have that option available, turn your RID on. And ahead of time, and that's going to give you the flexibility to kind of move around without changing your transmit frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead, Keith.
Just one more comment. Sometimes in a pileup, there can be some very, very weak signal stations that just won't get through. And if you have reason to think there could be a DX station calling you, for example, it's totally okay to just send DX ? Or on phone ask, is there a DX station, and try to give the weaker signals priority, especially with DX. Sometimes the opening may literally only be for minutes, and
right.
So, be aware that there could be some very, very weak signals in there that are just getting buried by the pileup.
Yeah, and it's really cool when you do that. Even in the middle of a pileup with SOTA chasers, they just part the waters and you'll hear silence, or you might hear that DX call in there. People are so courteous about it. It's pretty awesome.
Very awesome.
I was going to also say, you kind of touched on that last question, but I wanted to throw it out to the group to see what they said as well, and I have a comment too. The question specifically was, what is the group's opinion on handling overpowering or demanding chasers not wanting to wait their turn? And I'm sure everybody has an opinion on that one. I would just say that I always ignore people who I feel are rude or overpowering in any way. I never respond to them, and if it's really bad, I'll actually remember their call sign from before and won't work them before. I'm really a jerk, I guess, opposite of what they are. So I really return the favor. But I also think that if you're constantly focusing on the trailing end of a pileup, you're encouraging people to be overpowering and demanding and always trying to be the last. So I always try to do my very best to focus on picking out that letter or number at the beginning of the pileup as much as possible. So then I think it encourages people to not, do those trailing, waiting, till the very end and then sending theirs. So, but anyway, the rest of the group, what do you guys think?
I typically ignore them a lot of the times, and I've ignored them on the same day over several summits, just because they were. They were really being overpowering and being pretty rude about it. So it's okay to ignore those people so that you can, work your pileup.
I'll add one more thing. Somebody else there. I would say sometimes though you got to use discretion, because sometimes they may not hear anybody else. So you got to make sure you also give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
I have one other comment about that. I've had stations that would, call multiple times, whether it's, more than two, over and over and over on each go around. And I've emailed them and said, thanks very much for chasing, but you have such a good signal. You really don't need to call more than once. If I hear you and you're the strongest one, I'm going to work. And so just be patient, and thanks again for the good signal, and thanks again for the chase. And I've gotten some results with that. I've had chasers who historically would, send over and over and over. If they send the call one time, I'll work them on that first time I hear them, and because they do have a good signal. So that has helped out on some occasions.
I'd like to add an alternative view to that, which is I was more of a DXer in the past, and I think certain areas of the hobby that is much more acceptable to have strategies where you overpower or tail ending, or partial call signs, and the contester group and the DXer group, oftentimes they have different protocol than SOTA. And if somebody's new in SOTA and you hear them doing that, I try to recognize that they may be carrying over some habits that are much more acceptable from a different area of ham radio. And maybe it's a matter of learning the SOTA, style. And I think as people get more experience, then they kind of settle down. And so a lot of times I will, if I can work them and get them in the log, and 10 or 15 seconds later, I'm moved on to somebody else, it can make my time more relaxing instead of having somebody pounding away and interfering with everybody else.
Good point, Keith. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Good points. I appreciate that perspective a lot. Any other?
Yeah, I would tail end Keith's comment and say, just out of an activator that's, panicking because there's all these stations calling you, and you've got this loud station that just jumps in on everybody, and in order to survive and work the rest of the get on with the rest of the pile, I usually turn up my word per minute, turn up my keyer, and just operate that guy and get rid of him as fast as I can.
Good point. Yeah. Yep. And I've done that too, I have to admit. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, if there's nothing more to add on that topic, let's go ahead. Thank you, by the way, Adam. Very good information. Yeah. So far, everything's been great. Appreciate it. And appreciate the questions in the chat. Now Let's go on to Dan. Dan, let's see, you're talking about how to find your operating style, right?
Yeah, and quite a bit of this has really been, when you think about it, is finding your operating style. I've got just a quick presentation here, so I'll share my screen here. If I remember to click share. All right. Let's see here. Operating style. So no style points are awarded for you when you're activating. It's not about the attire you choose, but please dress appropriately for your weather conditions. Weather here in Arizona is a lot different than what Steve, for example, gets. And it's not about how cool you look while you're operating, even though this is one of my favorite ways to operate. It's nice and relaxing for me, but your style, as far as how you want to arrange yourself, may vary. So what am I talking about? Operating style. A lot of it's about what everybody else has been discussing, especially for a new operator. I know when I first started operating, I got up on top of the hill and grabbed the mic and started calling CQ, and it was kind of intimidating. How often should I call? Things like that. What should I call? So here I've listed just a couple different things. What I like to do is I use one or two different styles of how I call a CQ. So I'll call CQ SOTA, and I'll give my call sign, and I'll give it phonetically 99% of the time. So phonetically makes it a lot easier for the chasers to copy you down correctly. As a secondary, sometimes just kind of change it up a little bit. I'll throw in my mountain. I'll call CQ SOTA, my call sign, and then what mountain I'm on. And I do that primarily because you never know who's just scanning through the band, and then all of a sudden they hear you say something about you're on top of a mountain. So that might entice that person to come by and find out what you're up to, and maybe you'll create a new SOTA chaser out of them. Also, as you're going along, to kind of speed up how you work through your pileup, give your call sign and QRZ, just as a little bit shorter, especially if you know that you've got several people that are out there waiting. It helps. Same thing on when I give a signal report, something nice and short, NJ7V or 5.9, or NJ7V or 5.9 on Humboldt Mountain. Again, I'll reply with that a lot of times, just so that as people are scanning through the band, they might hear me and wonder what's going on. Is practice what you're gonna say, as you're driving up or as you're hiking. You've got plenty of time, especially while you're hiking. Inside. What is my style for the day? And obviously, style for a CW operator is very different. If I tried to send out the mountain that I'm on, like I would in a single sideband conversation, it would take me all day to get that out. So, you'll find that if you're a CW operator, a lot of your CQs are much shorter. Also, when you call a CQ, wait in between after you call, but don't wait too long, as others have expressed. Don't wait too long, because that silence will kill you. Because again, people are dialing up and down the band looking for you, and if they don't hear you, they'll move on. And then stay with the rhythm. Pick one or two different styles of calling CQ and acknowledging folks, and stick with those while you're on the summit. Because especially as Martha stated, chasers get used to your rhythm, and they know what to expect. So you can probably go through a lot of my activations, and you'll hear pretty much exactly the same thing from activation to activation. So that's really helpful for people who are chasing you, and it helps you to get through the pileup even quicker. I don't generally give my mountain designator very often, only when somebody requests it. People who are chasing you generally already know what mountain you're on, and they've seen you on the SOTA spot, and that's why they're there in the first place. And I don't know why it's doing that. Like others have said, if you missed a call sign, pick out what you can out of that call that you heard, and repeat it back to them. That's nice, all the way back at the front. If you miss the whole call sign, pick out what you can and simply ask for a repeat. There's nothing wrong with it. People are understanding of that. You might be momentarily distracted, and you totally miss part of the call sign. Control your pileup. People want to make contact with you. Work efficiently. As you go along, work at a good rhythm, at a good pace. And if you hear a whole lot of call signs, even on single sideband, don't be afraid to say, hey, I couldn't make out any of that. Can we just try it again? And people will call again. And generally, they're really good about kind of spreading themselves out when you say something like that. And that's all I've got.
Okay. Anything to add, guys? I like the prone thing there. That for sure. That was a kind of a funny joke. All right, then. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Let's go ahead and see what Dean K2JB has to say. Then you'll have to unmute unless you haven't figured that out. I muted you. There we go. Let me unmute him. There you go.
Okay. All right. I want to talk about SOTA activating and backpacking. And so just about every activator has gone to the summits. Start out with ones that are relatively easy to get to, or maybe the ones that they know are easy to reach, or they've been there before. And so, and as a lot of activators progress, then trying to check off all the summits that are in their area, they find that some of them, the hikes get a little bit longer, but most of those are day hikes. So what you take for a day hike is, something for rain gear, something to sit on, a bottle of water, and, something, a little bit of food, and your radios. And so, but at a certain point, you're probably going to want to venture out a little further to some of those summits that are more remote. Now, we're here in the W4 Association. We've got summits that are quite remote along the Appalachian Trail, as well as in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And to get to those, it's more than a day to get in, activate, and get back out. So you have to overnight somewhere. And so that takes a little different in terms of the skill set, as well as the competency. So I go back to the SOTA rule 3.7.4, which says you must be competent to undertake, an activation, and that hill climbing is inherently dangerous. That danger factor goes up more when you have to sustain yourself overnight. So, and that creates additional hazards. So what do you have to do to sustain yourself? Well, you have to have all of the things that your basic needs: food, shelter, water, and clothing, as well as your radio equipment. So you've got to be able to carry all of that. And you have to do it for significant distances. Sometimes it's an all-day hike in, and then an all-day hike back out. So you have to be sort of at least semi-skilled in backpacking. You may also want to go more lightweight on your radio equipment. I don't carry my KX3 and the larger battery on these. I take a little MTR5B with a small little LiPo battery. And so that cuts down on the weight of that also. Some of the areas that you're going to backpack require permits. That's the case in the Great Smoky Mountains, and it may be in other national parks also, or Forest Service areas. And And you have to be at least semi-skilled in off-trail navigation. Now, that's something that I was quite concerned about, and I'll explain how I overcame that. But basically, you have to have a safety plan when you do that. Going off trail is something that you don't take haphazardly. And so you need all of those, plus your SOTA skills have to be properly exercised to have a successful activation. If you're running CW, you make sure your alerts are out there and you've got a reasonable time for the alert to be active. Well, you got to have all those skills and then some. So how do you get those skills? Well, you can take a course in backpacking to learn the basics of backpacking. REI offers courses in that, and the YouTube videos are very helpful. There's just a ton of those out there that get you from the basics all the way up to, ultralight backpacking. You can borrow or purchase some of the essential backpacking equipment. Secondhand outfitters often have great bargains. REI has garage sales. So look at that. In terms of navigating, study peak baggers. If you're not familiar with them, peakbaggers.com. These are folks that do very much what we do, minus the radio. They go to the summits, they tag the summit, they come back and log it in a database. And they sometimes have good directions on how they got there. So peak baggers is real helpful, especially on bushwhacking routes. Study CalTopo, Gaia GPS, All Trails, Google Earth, and any of the other mapping tools to plan out your route. One of the things I never do, I've been burnt by this many times, is I never go out from a summit a different way than I came in. I wind up getting nowhere where I hope to be by doing that. So take the same route out that you came in. And national parks are also good for offering information about whether or not they require permits for some of their backcountry sites and overnighting. And then this goes back to the same thing that you learned when you first started SOTA, is go with someone on a SOTA activation where you're doing this overnight, or even just go on a backpacking trip with someone and learn some of these basic skills of, what kind of food do you take? What's the lightweight stuff? What do you cook with? All those sorts of things. So you learn so much by seeing and doing someone else. And it also is a great confidence builder in helping you do that. Like I said, I was quite concerned about going off trail, but Pat, KI4SPM, he's such a competent CalTopo fella. He has it mapped out, and every time, and just going with him just raised my confidence level quite a bit on going out. So find someone to go with. And if you're able to do all that, and you can safely backpack in and out and have a successful activation to some of those remote summits that never get activated, you open yourself up really to the next level of SOTA satisfaction, which is to be able to activate those rare summits that only the most intrepid have gone to. So get out there and do it, and check off some of those that have only been activated once or twice because they're just so far away.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Dean. That's really great information. And yeah, I know that there's at least a couple of us in here that also backpack as well that might have something to add. I know Adam has something on here. Do you have anything to add, Adam? What about the shortcuts that I heard?
that was a really good summary. And as a backpacker and a search and rescue guy who was out all night Saturday morning, Friday night, hauling a couple of younger guys out of a nearby area because they took a shortcut to try to get back to the car and got stuck on the side of a mountainside with a bunch of cliff bands and got stuck there, and we're sitting there shivering in the cold when we got to them at about 3 a.m. So so yeah, the shortcut is often not a shortcut.
Yeah.
No, it's a long cut.
Yes. I'd say, Dean, I really appreciate what you said there. And two, I would add, or I guess, I guess I would add that there's a point at which a lot of stuff is the same, even with backpacking versus day hiking. A lot of the gear is the same, but then there comes a point at which things change significantly, don't they? And
They do.
yeah, so you do take a lot of the same gear with you, whether you're day hike or not. But if you're planning on going overnight, especially more than 3 days, I think that's kind of the breaking point. More than 3 days, then things really kind of change for you. All right. Well, anything else to add, Martha? What about your backpacking experience?
No, my backpacking experience was a long time ago.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, we're gonna change the agenda just a little bit. We're gonna go with Keith now. You ready, Keith? If we go to you now.
Oh, yeah. Scott, wasn't Scott going to go?
Oh, did I skip Scott? Let me hold on a minute. Let me see. Let's see. Dean, and then Scott went first. He
I'm
did
sorry.
the SOTA community, and then
Yep.
it's the only people left are me, Brian, and you. Brian isn't here, and I'll defer, so we'll go to you.
Okay, great. I'm ready. So I'm going to talk a little bit about logging in general, and hopefully give you either some ideas based on what I do, or you can be validated in what you do. But obviously, one of the fundamental things in amateur radio in general is logging your QSOs, and in the Summits on the Air program, that's even more important because we get points for either activating or chasing, and in order to get those points, you have to submit a log. So when I'm up on a mountaintop, I keep my log manually. Generally I use these. I hope I can get it to show, and that's there. The ARRL mini log is normally what I'm going to be using. And the reason I use these is they are, the paper's treated so it handles moisture a little better. I can be confident that even if it's damp, I can still keep my log. But literally when I'm up there running my pileup, I am simultaneously writing down information for every single QSO. And some other things that I've heard, some people use a recorder and record the QSOs. Some people try to bring a cell phone and use an app. Obviously, if you have a home shack and you're using some kind of a software program, it's not feasible really to carry your laptop up onto most summits. And so this is what I use. There's a lot of variations. When I do my logging, I try to, I don't know if this is going to show or not, but so I will try, for example, this was a recent one. I try to make it as efficient as possible by not writing the same thing over and over. So for example, if I'm on 7.061 as a frequency, I'll just write a line as long as I'm on that frequency. Actually, on this log, you can see there's Martha worked me that activation a little bit farther down there at the top of that next page. It's not there. There's Dean's call sign, and you can see a smudge. That smudge is actually from my own sweat, unfortunately. But so, I go in the field, I write this paper log. I use a pen, generally one of the weatherproof pens. ARRL sells them. You can get them at REI or so on. They're, sometimes they're marketed as like space pens. They can write upside down and in freezing weather and in Arizona and boiling weather. So that's my start. But then, of course, I have to get that log up onto SOTA somehow. And so I come back and I'm going to share my screen and show you what I do for my next step. So I use this software. Hopefully this is showing up now. I use a software called Fast Log Entry, and I'll bring my log back, my paper log back, and I open up Fast Log Entry. Put in my call sign.
It hasn't shown up yet.
It has not shown up yet?
No.
Oh, nuts.
Other screen, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, it says your screen sharing is paused. Resume share.
There.
How about no? Still not, huh?
Well, I have the I have the multiple participants can share simultaneously. I checked, so it's got to be something you're doing because that's
Let me,
there. There it is.
There you go.
Bingo.
Oops, it came up,
now that I
came up,
deleted
and then it went.
It
I
crashed.
apologize. All right, is that showing now?
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, so this is fast log entry. Now, if you've ever been a programmer and you've used text editors like V or something, fast log entry is really basically a text entry type of a thing. So I put in my call sign, I'll put in my SOTA summit, maybe it was, I don't know, whoops, piano 25. Come down here, if the date is wrong, I can fix it. Maybe I did this one yesterday. And then I just start out 40 meters CW 7.061. I worked W0 ERI at 1923. We exchanged 559, and that's it. And then maybe I worked Charlie on the same thing, NJ7V. We were 599, and he happened to be on his own SOTA summit. So it was a SOTA summit to summit. I can say SOTA. Maybe he was on Charlie Sierra 023. Now, that is very fast. Once you get the hang of it, you can type I can type 100 and some QSO log literally in 15, 20 minutes max. If I hit F5, it brings it up so I can check it. And then once I've created the log, input the log, I'll just say, save it as an ADIF file. The ADIF is the standard format for amateur radio logs. And so you can see in my directory here, these are some recent logs that I've done. So for example, I did Mount Lemon with my friend Dave 89Q a couple weeks ago. And you just create an ADIF file. Once you've done that, I'm going to cancel because this is a demo, of course. Once you've done that, now you're ready to upload it into both SOTA as well as Logbook of the World. So the first step I will show is to log it into SOTA. Now, when you go into log your activations, you can go into the SOTA data.org.uk website, click on their menu, you submit logs, and you can always do it manually, and you can do one QSO at a time, but that takes forever. And you can upload a CSV, which there is software that some people use. It's an Excel spreadsheet type of a format. Personally, I find fast log entry to be much faster, but it may just be because of my own computing habits. So find what works for you. And then, so if you remember, I just created my ADIF log file in fast log entry. So I'll say upload the ADIF file. And then I can choose the file. And I will go into my logs here. I'll say upload this, for example, Mount Lemon. I have to reposition here to get to it. So once you go to upload that file, now I'm not really going to upload, I'm going to cancel before I upload it because I've already uploaded. But it shows a log then, and it lets you kind of test whether, does this look like the log I'm intending to upload? So you can see, various entries. There's a summit to summit. And if everything is fine and dandy, it will tell you if there's errors. In this case, there's errors because I've already uploaded this log, I think. But once it's uploaded, you accept it and you're done. You've actually uploaded not only your activator log, but if you did any summit to summits, those will automatically be uploaded as well. So that's kind of in my opinion, a very efficient way of getting your logs translated from that paper logging in the field to getting them onto SOTA. Now, another step that I wanted to just mention, I upload all logs to Logbook of the World. And I know different people have different opinions on whether Logbook of the World is, and that's fine. Personally, I think number one, you never know who wants your your contact for whatever award program they might be looking for. But the other reason I like to use Logbook of the World is because it's a way to show the amateur radio is in fact very active. If you look on Logbook of the World, you know, they've got 1,324,692,000 QSOs in their database. You know, anybody who thinks amateur radio is dead, all you need to do is tell them, well, if amateur radio is dead, how can there be 1,300,000,000 contacts, right? And I'm sure some scientists could take advantage of this database as well and do some serious data reduction, and there's probably discoveries waiting to happen from the Logbook of the World data that nobody's bothered to check. So I personally am a big fan of Logbook of the World, and I really encourage people to upload to it. So in order to do that, obviously you have to upload your log. But one of the problems we have in Summits on the Air is we're in a different location every time we're activating. You know, if I activate Woody Mountain right across the road here from my house in Flagstaff, that's a much different location than if I activate Mount Lemmon down in Tucson. And if you really want that data to be valuable, you need to identify the location. So the way to do that is to use this thing called TQSL, which if you use Logbook of the World, you have TQSL because it's where you have these certificates that AWL requires. And all you have to do is open TQSL, and you click on the station locations thing here, and then you create your new station location. Now, I've already created station locations for everywhere I've ever worked from. So I'll just, as an example, when I was in North Carolina, I operated from W4C CM01. So I'm going to edit that to show you the steps that you would do, but normally you would create a new location. So you choose your call. Most of the time you may only have one call sign, but if you operate portable, for example, I operated in Canada as KR7RK/V3, and you have a different call sign that you want to upload. You put in the grid where that SOTA summit is. The ITU and CQ zones normally will populate correctly, but you can double check them. You say next. Oops, I jumped over one. Say next, and it will ask you what state and county. Now, you know, county hunters can use Logbook of the World, and when we're out there activating SOTA summits, we may be activating a rare county for somebody. So, and even you know, when they had the parks on the air, you could choose different parks. So there's Appalachian National Scenic Trail, for example. And once you've done that, you just save it, you name it whatever you want. I've kind of standardized on a format that is meaningful to me. So once you have the location, then you're just going to take that ATIF file and upload it using that location. You can do that directly from TQSL. You can sign a log and upload it automatically. I personally, what I do is I keep all my logs in this software N3FJT. So the first thing I would do is import my log, import an ATIF. The ATIF that I just created in fast log entry, I'll just import it here. So import that log. Once it's been imported, it shows up here, and then I can just choose those, whichever ones I want to upload. I'll say elogs, Logbook of the World, and within this program, I would choose what location I was operating from. And when I upload them to Logbook of the World, all the data is correct in terms of location and all the contacts. And my experience tells me that SOTA operators, it's maybe 50-50 on whether they use Logbook of the World or not. So I encourage it. And obviously, you know, if I've worked WG0AT 100 times, he probably doesn't need my confirmation on Logbook of the World anymore anyway. But again, it still doesn't hurt to have that data in there. So that's kind of my quick and dirty, and I know I went through that very fast. It's not something that I expect you to remember everything I just showed you, but conceptually, it's a fairly easy process to go from quickly creating an ATA file that you can then upload very quickly and conveniently to SOTA. And you can use that same exact ATA file to very quickly and conveniently upload into Logbook of the World. So that's kind of my current solution for logging in SOTA. And again, other people have different solutions. So mine's maybe not automatically the best, but it's something to consider. If anybody wants more information on that, I'm more than happy to share it. You can contact me offline and be happy to help out. So
Thanks, Keith. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for sharing there. What do you think, guys? Anybody else use his method? I know I don't, but I learned some things, looking at the way he does it. I think there's some great ideas. I tried fast log view or whatever what's it called again, Keith?
It's fast log entry, and it's abbreviated FLE.
Yeah, I've used it before. I probably didn't use it enough to give it a fair shot, I guess. So I use paper logs too, but I put mine into the one you maybe didn't mention or did. It's the what is it? SQL. What is it called? It's SOTA log editor. Kind of the same thing
CSV.
though. Yeah, I do SOTA and also Logbook of the World too, and I'm glad you mentioned the whole location thing, because that's really important for other people to make sure it's validated properly. What do you think, guys? Anything else to add or anything other comments there?
I was just curious what Keith was using for his paper log. So I've got one that's on a 8.5 by 11. So which little logbook are you using? Is that one you created, or?
Yeah, it's called the mini log. I'll try to show it here. And I get them. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know this screen.
Oh, it's the ARRL one, correct?
Yeah, so they have them sporadically in the ARRL store. Sometimes they'll tell you they're sold out. One time they told me they're never coming back, and then they came back. I usually will order, I'll wait for some coupon deal and order 10 at a time. The one downside is I think they hold something like 700 contacts. And so, as you can imagine, I've filled many of those logs, and that can get a little pricey. So the reason again is the paper is a little better in damp conditions.
What about anybody else? What do you guys all use? Do you all use paper, or some of you use the app? I think Matt. Yeah, what do you got there?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Am I still on mute?
No, you're not. Go, Steve.
Okay. I use paper just because I get panicked, and it's a little 3x5. No, it's not even 3x5. It's one of these little mini pads that I put in my pocket. I use paper to scribble down something when you have this wall of sound coming at you, and but I also record it. There's an app on my iPhone that I recorded on, and so the next day I play it back, and the app actually has real time on it, so I can sync that with my paper log, so to speak, and between the two of them, I managed to get. I use a text editor and upload a CSV file.
Interesting.
I use a pad. What is it, about 4x5 inches, something like that. I think it's called Write in the Rain or something like that. It's intended for use out where it's wet. Plus one of the space pens, something like that, and then put it all into SOTA log afterwards, and then upload it. Say I only have to do that once, thank goodness, add it that way, and then I can put it wherever I want to. And I do use Logbook of the World as well. I don't pay much attention to it after I've uploaded it to it, but I do it.
All right. Anybody else have a comment before we wrap things up? Go ahead, Scott.
Excellent paper also, SOTA CSV editor. I think that's been mentioned, is awfully compatible with SOTA data uploads.
Yep.
SOTA CSV editor.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Oh, that's too bright, hard to see. I'm a huge fan of outdlog, and maybe you can see it a little better there. Get the reflection off of it. And VK Portalog. The big advantages for those, or from those for me, are just being able to log quickly while I'm in the field. I'm real comfortable with typing in call signs using the app, and then direct upload into the SOTA website. So it's ridiculously easy with no work needed after you complete your activation, other than to just upload a CSV. So.
Okay. All right, guys, let's do this then. If nothing else, let's go ahead, go around, do a little once around. And if you have anything else that you wanted to add, again, this is a round table for new SOTA guys, a SOTA rookie. So if there's anything that you feel like we may not have covered that you want to just really quickly, briefly mention, go ahead and do that. And then if you have some of you do, some of you don't. If you have a YouTube channel, a blog, a website, I know most of us have something, then go ahead and let the guys know where that is, and the gals, and then send that link to me, and I'll put that in the description below this live stream. So let's start up with Steve, if unless he's busy, and let him go ahead with it first.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Okay. Let me first start by saying that it is a huge honor to be amongst all you guys, and I have huge respect for all of you. And SOTA is my lifeblood. It's marrying photography and outdoors and hiking in the mountains. The mountains are my church, and it's therapy. Anyway, getting back to the real theme of this presentation. If you're interested in SOTA, find somebody locally and tag them. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be shy. Say, I want to get involved in SOTA because it gets me outdoors. It's playing ham radio. It's being prepared with, being able to communicate when I'm out in the middle of nowhere. And it improves your skills of surviving in Mother Nature, and improves your operating skills in playing with radios. And it's all good. It's all good.
Charlie, I think you're muted.
Had a cough there, and then I didn't unmute. Steve, thank you. Is there some way did they reach out to you? People watching, the best way, Twitter?
Oh, yeah. Goat Hiker. Google Goat Hiker.
Cool.
And there's pictures, there's stories, there's a YouTube channel called Goat Hiker, and feel free to email me, or if you got questions, like for example that spreadsheet that I had was about dialing in your EQ or audio for the KX2.
Okay. Cool. All right, Martha, what do you have to say for wrapping it up?
Else, the one thing that several people mentioned, and I would like to mention also, is when you are activating, don't leave big spaces, because people wonder what happened to you, where you went, whatever. So as much as possible, keep, or if you have to stop for a minute, say something. And that way, if somebody puts their call out, why, or asks, you know, is so-and-so still on frequency, why somebody will be there to say, yes, they are going to come back. As far as a SOTA community, it is a community. My husband and I travel quite a bit to various ham fests. So we've gotten to meet Dean, we've met Steve, we've met a number of different hams. We spend time out in Huntsville, Alabama with a whole bunch of them in August every year. And we love meeting the various activators and other chasers. So couldn't ask for a better hobby.
Great. Okay, thank you, Martha. It was so nice having you on. All right, Scott, go ahead.
I've enjoyed everything I've heard tonight. You all are such good activators and chasers. Thank you for all you do. And I would just say also to people who are interested, call up one of us, call up anybody that you know that's doing it. And if you like to hike, if you like the outdoors, if you like playing with radios, this is the perfect marriage of those wonderful hobbies.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Keith?
Oh, you know, I will kind of say the same thing. This is an opportunity to get fresh air, enjoy the outdoors, do something healthy, and enjoy the ham radio hobby. So I just can't recommend it enough. I'll add that for a lot of us, as the world becomes more and more restrictive on what we can do with antennas and things, it provides an opportunity to get on the air, and that's largely what drove me to even start SOTA in the first place. And so if you're challenged in setting up a home station, SOTA is a fantastic place to set up a ham shack. And you get to set it up over and over and over and experiment and play around and do things differently as you like. And so, and every single person, just like all the people here, friendly, sharing, encouraging, and yeah, I think it's a life-changing experience in ham radio. So I highly encourage anybody who's new to it, get involved and have some fun.
Okay. Don't you have a website, Keith?
Well, I have a website, but it's actually, I think the last time I updated it was 2009, maybe.
Okay.
So,
Forget I said it.
kr7rk.com. One of these days, when I find some time, which seems to be in short supply, one of these days I'll update it. So yeah, it's still there. And you can reach me at keith@kr7rk.com.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you, Keith. Dean.
Okay, I just want to mention two things that I mentioned to folks who are interested in SOTA. Is that SOTA, in my opinion, is absolutely the best of everything in ham radio. It will challenge your technical skills. It will challenge your, navigation skills. How do you get to somewhere? How do you get an antenna up in the air? All those things, and it's just all of the best thing. And the other thing that I mentioned is that every activation is an adventure. Every chase is a vicarious adventure. When I chase someone, especially if I know what summit they're actually on and I've been there, in my mind, I can see them there and I can see how I've been there. So it's just the best of everything in terms of activating and chasing. And I've become somewhat of an evangelist for SOTA here in the W4 area.
Oh, for sure you have. I've heard. Good. All right, Dan.
Well, I just want to say that it was great being on with everybody. I look forward to, hopefully activating with a lot of you guys during as I continue my SOTA journey. But for a newcomer, like everybody was saying, you get to use a lot of different skills when you combine hiking and SOTA, and you get a lot of great memories. It doesn't matter if you're hiking on your own or if you're going with somebody. There's always something that happens on every single hike to a summit that you remember for the rest of your life. So get out there and enjoy it.
Yep. Cool. All right, Adam, you're up.
All right. With Summits on the Air, every day is field day. And a key part of field day is the public relations part of it. Summits we go to often have a bunch of people up there, and they are going to be interested in what you're doing. So be prepared for that, and be positive representatives, ambassadors for the hobby. I've had people sit down with me and just listen to me work DX stations on single sideband, and oftentimes I'll try to switch from CW to sideband so they can listen in and have fun. So consider that as an opportunity to reach out to people, and also be courteous of others on the summits that maybe you don't want to set up right on the summit. Give people some room to enjoy the space. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of throw that final piece in there. If you want more information, I'm sure just about anyone on here would be happy to have you reach out to us. Another good source of information is the SOTA Reflector, the message board on the SOTA site, and the SOTA-NA Slack group. Really good group of people with a whole bunch of information there. Come bring your questions and have some fun with us.
Cool. And how can they get a hold of you, Adam?
You can look me up by my call sign on QRZ, and the email address is good there. That's a good way to get me.
All right. And don't forget your YouTube channel. Everybody probably knows about it.
Yes. K6ARK Portable Radio. Look it up, and hope you enjoy coming on some adventures virtually with me through my videos.
Okay. Steve, you had something else?
Yeah, I have one more comment. That is, when you're on a public summit with a lot of people, you are the strange person that has all this stuff, and you're talking to people all over the world. And I put together a QSL card for hikers, tourists, whatever, and be glad to share it with you all. It basically says, "So what are you doing?" Anyway, it explains about SOTA, explains about my crazy passion for hiking and radios, and the fact I'm talking to folks all over the world, and I'm not some crazy, terrorist that's trying to communicate with the next bombing. It's be an ambassador, break the ice, and talk to people, regardless of that you've got this crazy pileup just barreling down, and oh my God, somebody's walking up to me and they want to talk to me. But it's sharing the hobby.
Oh.
And thank you again.
Yeah, thank
for
you.
this time together.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Dan, Scott, Keith, Adam, Dean, Martha, and Steve. It's my honor to be here with you today. I really appreciate you guys taking time, coming on board, and sharing your knowledge with everybody. I'm just very appreciative of it. I hope we have another opportunity to get together like this again at some point. You all are great, and I love you guys. I feel like I haven't even met you. I haven't met any of you in person hardly. Some of you I have, but I do. So I appreciate it. All right, we're gonna close it out. If you guys that are in Dean and Steve and all you guys, if you don't want to drop right away, you can, or either way. I think some of us stick around for a few minutes afterwards, but it's up to you. So with that, guys, we're gonna call it good. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you on another one at some point, I am sure. So 73, everybody.
73.
73s, 88s. Dit.